Hey everyone, I'm back to talk about some SEC quarterbacks that I watched this week. I went through and watched a couple guys, a lot of underclassmen that made it clear for this draft. A lot of people think of first round picks, so I think it's an interesting topic. The first guy I took a look at was Arkansas's quarterback Tyler Wilson, and I was impressed. I was impressed with what I saw. I wasn't as high on Wilson as I was on others. Now, he had some great receivers last year and should continue to have some pretty good ones this year. But he had a solid arm, a nice zip on the ball, and he especially can get it down the field. He has that deep passing arm and the arm strength to get it done. So that's one of his strengths, and that's what a lot of people are going to see and like. He got it down the field, Joe Adams, Jarius Wright, etc. Greg Childs 2 years ago as well. He uses his technique to his advantage. He really lays into throws with his footwork. That's something I like about him. When the pressure isn't on, he uses that plant foot to really add to the velocity of his passes, something that some of these other quarterbacks don't do that Tyler Wilson does very well. Pretty good ball placement, especially 15 to 20 yards down the field. Short range, he can be a little wobbly sometimes, especially on the run. Down the field, obviously, it's tough to be extremely accurate there, but that mid-range, 15 to 20 yards, I really like what I saw from him. Okay pocket presence, he can also run if it's necessary. Some of the negatives with him, he sometimes struggles to read defenses. He makes mistakes when the safeties, or especially linebackers, is what I saw, disguise their coverages, their disguised blitzes. He thought someone was going to blitz. They went back in coverage. He threw the ball anyway. Something he has to catch up on. The system makes it difficult to evaluate him. That's always tough with Bobby Petrino quarterbacks. It's very difficult. It was difficult with Ryan Mallett, and it gets difficult with Tyler Wilson as well, and Brian Brom was back then. So I want to see what happens this year. Maybe there might be some growing pains with the changes to the team, but his tools are there. If he can mentally catch up, I really like him. I bumped him up my rankings. The second is Tyler Bray, the Tennessee quarterback. Lots of experience. He's basically been playing there since he was there, since he started on the team. And I like the physical tools of his. He's big, he's tall, he's strong, maybe a little skinny. I think he can still add a little bit of weight to him, but he definitely has the frame to do that. Probably the best physical tools of any of the players that I watched, but he's really inconsistent with everything else. He knows his receivers well, two great receivers in Hunter and Rodgers, and he puts the ball where they can get it. Now, where he places the ball sometimes won't fly in the NFL, but it flies in college with these receivers. That's tough to evaluate. He excels more with timing routes and heavily practiced routes. Things they ran a lot, he did very well. Things they didn't run all that much, or I saw very rarely on some of the games, he struggled a little bit. He sees holes in the zone well, pretty experienced. His accuracy can be lazy at times, like I said. He expects his wide receivers to make plays, so he doesn't always put it right on the numbers. Doesn't really have this great pinpoint accuracy or anticipation of where his receivers are going to be. He's not very mobile. Footwork is often sloppy. He has kind of a low release, so lots of tweaking that might need done with him. But once again, the physical tools could push him up the board. Could be a first-round pick, could be a third-round pick. It just depends how the board falls for some of these teams. Aaron Murray, the quarterback from Georgia, is the next guy who, once again, lots of experience, a little on the shorter side, 6 foot, 6'1". That's fine. That's good enough for me. I'm not worried about the height too much. He's not great at any one thing, but it's tough to find a major weakness with him, too. And I don't think there's anything that stands out saying, oh, that needs a lot of work. Nothing like that with Aaron Murray. He can get the ball down the field. There's a couple passes down the field. Absolutely incredible. Better than anything Wilson or Bray threw. But then there are also times when he just overthrew wide open guys or underthrew wide open receivers. That's tough. Clutch situations, he was pretty good. Pretty safe passer. He would rather have an incomplete pass than an interception. So that can be positive or negative depending how you want to look at it. Nice tight spiral with perfect release point and follow through. I really like his motion. I think it's one that can work so well in the NFL. The motion that he has. I'm in love with Aaron Murray's technique. And the footwork is usually there as well. So that's something I think a lot of NFL teams will like. Overthrows receivers more than you'd like. A lot sometimes end up on the short side too, but it should be good enough. He can go the other way and throw balls on the ground, as I kind of mentioned, when trying to be too tight. Sometimes in some of those situations he gets a little bit too tight with it. He's trying to play it too safe. We've seen quarterbacks struggle in the NFL when they have that mindset of I can't make the big interception, I can't make the big mistake. That seems to be Aaron Murray's MO, so I'm a little worried about that. He locks on to receivers with his eyes. He sometimes can give away his plan of where he's throwing the ball or where the hot route is. something to be aware. I think he can sneak back into the first round. I don't have him as a top of the first round type of player, but just like Brandon Weeden this year, I think Aaron Murray's comparable. I also watched a couple others just that I wanted to see. A.J. McCarron from Alabama is an underclassman. I don't expect him to declare, but he has pretty good physical tools. I know they were a running team with Trent Richardson. They'll probably be a running team this year with Eddie Lacy. But I like what I saw from him when I watched Alabama a couple weeks ago. And he just needs to keep developing his sense of defenses, of understanding his receivers, understanding the routes. I don't know that he always knows the routes that everyone's running exactly. So if he develops, I think he could be a sneaky play this year. The last guy is Jordan Rodgers, senior out of Vanderbilt, who's Aaron Rodgers' brother. Definitely doesn't have the football tools that Rodgers had, but he does have a pretty good football IQ, and he made some really big plays and took Vanderbilt and made some nice wins for them this season. And a lot of it was on Rodgers. So I think he's going to be a draftable player. I don't know. The bloodlines obviously will help, and I don't know if he's going to be that highly drafted. But as a late round flyer, it wouldn't surprise me if he gets taken. So, I had Bray up there pretty highly for me. I'm probably going to push Tyler Wilson up. I think he's probably going to be my number one going into this year behind Matt Barkley, the number one SEC quarterback, I should say. Probably my number two behind Matt Barkley. Tyler Bray, I think, will be a first rounder on that fringe. Could be a first or third rounder. I think Murray is the safest pick in this class. I think he'll do well, but I wonder if he has everything. I think he has that it factor. Wonder if he has everything. McCarron, Rodgers, players to watch. Next week, I'm going to be looking at the Florida State Seminoles. Lots of prospects all over the board. I'm excited to get into it. Thanks, everyone, and check me out on Twitter @Shane P. Hallam. Thanks, guys.